Life. My name is Tate Genzaloni, and I'm an enrolled agent with the IRS, and I'm also the Member Experience Manager for Stride's tax product, Stride Tax. I'm just going to wait 1 minute before we get started so that a few more people can join the broadcast. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. So a common question that I get around this time of year is, what tax filing method should I use? Should I file online? Should I file with a tax preparer, or maybe just fill out the forms by hand? If I work for myself, should I automatically just go and pay for a CPA? So today I'm going to cover all the different types of filing methods that I would recommend and how to figure out which one might be best for your situation. So before we get into that information, be sure to like this broadcast and share it with all of your self-employed friends so that they can all be prepared for the April 15th tax filing deadline. If you have any questions or comments about any of the information we go over today, feel free to comment in the broadcast and we'll get to your questions afterwards. Okay, so I'm going to go over 3 main methods of tax preparation today. So one would be a tax preparer, so a CPA, accountant, or any other type of tax preparer. 2 would be tax filing software, so filing online. And 3 would be paper filing, so filing with pen and paper by hand. So before we jump in, I want to address a common misconception that I hear among people who work for themselves. So a comment that I hear quite often is, well, I work for myself, so doing my own taxes would be too complicated, I should just go ahead and hire a CPA. And while there's nothing wrong with that, I did want to let everybody know that a ton of independent workers file their own taxes, and it's definitely possible for you, even if you've never done it before. So I'll talk through some of the pros and cons of hiring a tax preparer, but just know that you don't automatically have to go and pay for one just because you're self-employed. So the basics for this method would be, if you went to hire a CPA or an accountant or any other kind of tax return preparer who has registered with the IRS. So you would be hiring another person to file your tax return for you. The price really varies. A lot of tax preparers will charge by hour, and they may even charge by the type of form that they need to file for you. So it can range anywhere from $200 to $500. I've seen it get much higher if someone is operating an LLC or has a really, really complicated situation. But it tends to get more expensive the more complicated your tax return is because it's taking up more of that person's time. But the time cost for you is usually less than 2 hours. Really all you need to do is gather up all of your information and then take it to the person who's preparing your taxes. The quality is going to be pretty high. And this would be a good option for anyone who knows that they have a complicated tax situation, or for people who are really nervous about filing their taxes on their own and don't want to do it by themselves. So when I say complicated tax return, that can mean a number of things. It could mean anything from having multiple types of income, or owning a home, or maybe you incurred really high medical costs and you need to make sure that you get all of the tax breaks that you can for them. Maybe operating an LLC or experiencing a big major life change that would mean that your tax return would be different this year than it would have been in previous years that you're used to. So if any of those apply to you, or if you know that you meet any other kinds of standards for a complicated tax return, then this could be a good option for you, because you would need to fill out some extra forms alongside your typical Form 1040 when you file your taxes. And that could mean extra work for you, and maybe if you haven't gone through it before, it could be best to have somebody do it for you. So the major upside of a tax return preparer is that it requires pretty minimal effort on your part. You just gather up all your info and let them do the work for you. So if you know that filing on your own is going to take up an entire weekend, and you know that your time is better spent elsewhere, maybe on your business, this could be a really good option for you. You would also be paying for peace of mind. You would know that the tax preparer that you're going to is probably more experienced in the tax filing process. You know the ins and outs of the process. They may even be able to find deductions for you that you wouldn't have found on your own. On the flip side, it is more costly to do that. Like I said, it could range as high as $500 or more depending on your tax situation. So it's up to you if that cost is worth the time that you can save. One pro tip I'll let you in on, tax preparers will usually become less available the closer we get to the end of tax filing season. As I'm sure you're aware, most people will wait until April to start filing. So if you want to make sure that you get a spot with the tax preparer, you should probably book time as soon as you can. So the second method that you could use is a tax filing software. So this could be good for a lot of people out there who maybe have easy or moderately complex returns, or people who just like managing their own finances. So the process would be you go online and you buy a software, or you go to a website where a software can walk you through the tax return filing process. The price can be anywhere from $0, it could be free, all the way to, I think some of the top line ones are typically about $120. And then the time spent really ranges on how long it'll take you to get through the process. So I've seen people, get through their returns in 30 minutes, and I've seen some people take several hours because maybe they had to stop and start and go find other pieces of information they didn't have available before. So like I said, this is probably good for people who have easy or moderately complex returns, or if you are already familiar with the tax filing process and feel confident you can handle it on your own. So if you've never filed taxes on your own with a software before, what happens is it walks you through the process by asking you a series of interview questions. So it'll basically ask you a few questions about your tax filing situation, usually yes or no ones. And if you feel comfortable answering those kinds of questions, then this could be a good option for you because it's definitely within your reach. So a couple questions they might ask you would be, how much money did you get from self-employment this year? Or how much did you have in vehicle expenses for your business? Or are you married, and if you are you filing jointly? Or do you want to claim dependents, and what are their social security numbers? So if any of those questions sound like things that you could reasonably answer on your own and feel comfortable answering, then an online tax filing software could be a great option for you, because it'll really just be a series of questions like that you can answer, and it'll walk you through each step of the tax return. So you won't ever really have to fill in blank spaces by yourself without any kind of guidance. What's really great about these softwares is they usually have a ton of tooltips or little pieces of help copy on the page that'll help you figure out how to answer the questions. And they usually will have a dedicated support team to help answer those questions for you as well. So if you can look through all of the information on that website and you can't figure out how to answer a question by yourself, then usually, depending on which software you're going with, you can go and talk to a real person who will walk you through it. If that's something that interests anybody out there, Stride is partnering with H&R Block to give you a discount on their online filing product and on their in-person filing method. So you can get 20% off of online filing, or if you're a new client to H&R Block, you can get $25 off your appointment. And details for accessing those discounts are in the comments as well. So that's online tax filing. That's probably what the majority of people that I talk to are gonna use to file their taxes. The third method that we could go through is paper filing. So it's exactly what it sounds like. It's you printing out forms from the IRS website and filling them out by hand. The price would obviously be free. The time that you would spend really depends on how familiar you are with the tax code. So if you are really new to tax filing, it could take you, as much as 4 hours or more to get through the tax return. But if this is something that you're really already familiar with, then it could take you, an hour or less. So the quality is probably going to match how familiar you are with the tax code. I think this is a pretty good option for either people who have really simple tax situations and they can get through it on their own really quickly, or for the expert tax filers out there who don't want to pay someone else to do it, don't want to pay for online software, and are confident enough to be able to fill out these forms on their own. I will admit that filing your taxes by hand can be quite complicated, especially when you're self-employed, because it involves adding extra forms to your tax return just because of your self-employment. And I'll also note that the IRS does write instructions on all of these forms, but they're not always the easiest to understand, as you can imagine. So unless you're, a tax code nerd, or really enjoy, doing things on your own instead of relying on software or another person, it's not usually the first recommendation that I'd make to file by hand. If you are in any of these following buckets, then maybe this is a good option for you. So if you only have one source of income, or you have very few deductions, or you have no dependents, or you won't qualify for any tax credits, and if you have not experienced any major life changes in the past few years, so your tax return this year is going to be very similar to past years, then I would say you're probably in a pretty simple tax situation, and maybe this is just a fine option for you. I will also note that if you're only filing by hand because you want to save money, there are a couple options besides filing by hand that could also help you not break the bank. So like I said before, some online tax filing softwares are free. There are a couple that you can employ without having to pay out for an expensive software. And there are also a lot of free tax filing programs out there that you might qualify for if your income is below a certain level. So that would mean you would go to, it's usually run by a nonprofit who would have tax preparers on hand to be able to go through your information with you and then file your taxes for you. So it'll be a lot like hiring a tax preparer, except it's a free program. So you can find a number of those on the IRS website. They can recommend a program in your area. The wait time, if you include the tax filing and potentially waiting in line, it could range from between 1 to 3 hours. So you might want to set aside, a chunk of your day to go get assistance with your tax return. To qualify for those programs, you usually have to have an adjusted gross income of below $55,000 per year. But there are also tax filing programs out there for free for people with disabilities or people who speak limited English. So depending on what's available in your community, you might be able to find one of these programs on your own. So that was a lot of information. So if any of this was confusing or if you have further questions about any of the information here, you can drop your questions in the comment box on this broadcast. We'll be sure to answer them for you afterwards. You can also check out Stride's cheat sheet with all of this information. We're going to drop that in the comment section as well. So you can see all of this information in front of you and maybe figure out which tax filing method is best for you. So thank you everybody for joining us today. You should be all set to go out and start filing your taxes before the deadline on April 15th. If you found this Facebook Live helpful, be sure to like it and share it with your friends who are self-employed. And if you haven't already liked Stride on Facebook, you should do so now. That way you'll get notified the next time we go live with more tax information for you. And if you're looking for more tips and guidance and recordings of this Facebook Live, you can follow us on Twitter to see all this information, or you could go check out Stride's blog on our website as well. And if you're looking to get access to Stride's in-house tax support team, if you're a Stride tax member, then you can do so by clicking the help button in the menu of your app. And you can find more information in the comments below. Thank you.